This is CBC Vancouver News.
He lived that, and it's not surprising to me that that's what he did with his last breath.
We take you to Israel, where loved ones say goodbye to the young Vancouver man killed by Hamas, hearing about his heroic efforts just moments before he died. Plus,
they've been able to successfully marry densification and homes around their SkyTrain stations.
Vancouver moves to streamline building codes, looking to Burnaby's housing model of building towers near transit hubs. And
found what he wanted and basically left.
He obviously has a sweet tooth.
a bear saunters into a gas station on the island to steal gummy bears. Good evening, I'm Tanya Fletcher. Thanks for joining us. The war in the Middle East is ramping up again tonight, already claiming at least 2,300 lives on both sides. The horrors from the massive and coordinated attack by Hamas against people in Israel continue to reverberate. International aid groups warn the deaths in Gaza could accelerate as the territory faces a blockade cut off from supplies. In Israel, the death toll from those surprise weekend attacks at the hands of Hamas is now climbed to 1,200, most of them civilians. And Israel's retaliatory siege on the Gaza Strip has killed now more than 1,000 people. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has formed an emergency government and war management cabinet, vowing that Israel will crush and destroy Hamas. Well, meanwhile, Foreign Affairs Canada confirms 2 Canadians, were killed, and a third is now presumed dead as well. Today, loved ones gathered in Israel to say goodbye to 22-year-old Vancouver man Ben Mizrahi. He was at that big music festival when Hamas militants attacked. Some who managed to escape say Mizrahi may still be alive if he hadn't tried to save others. The CBC's Adrian Arsenault was at the funeral and begins our coverage from Israel.
The shock of Saturday's attack has meant so much silence in Israel. But with funerals starting here, grief wails. This is the goodbye for Canadian Ben Mizrahi, who grew up in Vancouver. A 22-year-old with a big laugh and a big smile. He'd lived on this kibbutz in the south since coming to Israel as a soldier by himself, a lone soldier, as Israelis say. But those who loved him insist he was never really alone. And the faces here tell you that's true.
Ben.
That's Ben's sister.
You were here for such a short time, and now you won't be my older brother, my savior.
And this is his mom.
Ben, our oldest, where are you? This is the fate, because if you were not at the party, you would have been drafted to the army the next day, and the results would have been the same.
The party she mentioned was that concert in the desert. Ben heard the rockets and started running. Then, trained as a combat medic, Ben went back to help.
He was a really special guy and just put himself in front for other people. And knowing Ben, known him for 5 years, I mean, he lived that. He lived that, and it's not surprising to me that that's what he did with his last breath.
The danger that took their Ben lurks still. The procession to the cemetery smaller, the distances shorter, because the rockets still streak in the skies above. This life-changing, life-stealing week has exhausted. Israelis and Palestinians may end up burying thousands more. Hearts can only take so much.
And that's the CBC's Adrian Arsenault in Israel tonight. Meanwhile, Ottawa says it is ready to start airlifting Canadians out of the conflict zone. Flights will be offered to citizens, permanent residents, their spouses, and children. As Kate McKenna reports, 2 military planes are en route to Tel Aviv.
Many of you want to return to your family, to home, and want to do so safely, and we will help you.
Canada will take the unusual step of airlifting Canadians from Israel, even though some commercial flights are still taking off.
We'll begin the assisted departure of Canadians from Tel Aviv in the coming days, by the end of the week, with the help of aircraft from the Canadian Armed Forces.
Military flights will take Canadian citizens, permanent residents, and their families to Athens free of charge in response to Canadians asking for help.
We have a flight Saturday to Dubai, but we are hopeful that the Canadian government will get us out sooner.
Even those with tickets are worried their commercial flights will be canceled.
We had an experience where we were buying many tickets to Bucharest, to Cyprus, to Budapest, and flights were just Frankfurt. They were ghost tickets, so sold by third-party airlines. And so we had probably booked about 50 flights accumulatively between all of us. And we had used up all of our credit card space. And then, of course, the flights are not real flights, they're canceled.
But those flights are inaccessible to those trapped in Gaza.
Right now, there's no way we can leave Gaza. We are just waiting, to be honest, to be heard, to be seen as Canadians and for sure as Palestinians as well.
The Foreign Affairs Minister acknowledges getting people out of Gaza would require a humanitarian corridor.
Should the United Nations work on an evacuation, we would be working with them. We've done so in the past, but at this point, there has been no information coming from the UN regarding evacuation.
The Foreign Affairs Minister says she's working with allies in the region closely. The Canadian flights out of Tel Aviv are set to start by Friday. If there are empty seats on the planes, officials aren't ruling out offering them to other people hoping to leave Israel. Kate McKenna, CBC News, Ottawa.
Well, back here in BC, RCMP and Whistler continue to search for a senior who's been missing since Thanksgiving Monday. 80-year-old Robert McKean was last seen walking his dog at the top of Alpine Way. He's 5'6", 130 pounds with a slim build. He was last seen wearing a green jacket, a baseball cap, blue jeans, and a blue Canucks hoodie. Search crews have been looking for him in the Upper Alpine neighborhood. They're asking volunteers to focus their search around the Emerald Forest area. A BC man is facing charges in connection with making so-called ghost guns after a nearly 2-year investigation. The province's anti-gang unit opened an investigation in the Thompson-Okanagan region in December 2021. Police had executed a search warrant at a home in Heffley Creek, just north of Kamloops. That's where they found 3D printed gun parts, a 3D printer, body armor, and a tactical shotgun. A 31-year-old man is now facing multiple charges, including 2 counts of firearms manufacturing and possession of a banned weapon. As renters and homeowners continue to get squeezed by higher living costs, Vancouver is looking at several policies to tackle the housing crisis. That includes streamlining the building code, allowing mid-rise buildings in village centers. As our Justin McElroy shows us, the city is looking to replicate Burnaby's model of building around transit hubs.
Vancouver has 2 rapid transit systems that are almost entirely surrounded by single-family homes, but that could soon change. Mayor Ken Sim announced Wednesday that he'll be putting forward a motion asking staff to explore opportunities to rezone land around, quote, underdeveloped SkyTrain stations. And he specifically named Nanaimo Station and 29th Avenue Station. The area around those stations have stayed pretty much the same since the Expo line was built nearly 40 years ago, and Sim wants that to change.
We're actually using Burnaby as a role model. They're doing a lot of great things, and they've been able to successfully marry densification and homes around their SkyTrain stations.
But it's not just potential community backlash that has kept the area static. City engineers have said the upgrades required for sewage and electricity could cost hundreds of millions of dollars. Sim, though, isn't dissuaded.
Look, at the end of the day, we need more housing. You know, when you look at King Edward, to have, 7-8 stories on the northwest corner of that street above, the Canada line, it seems quite ridiculous. And so that's a lost opportunity.
Of course, this is just an announcement. After all, Vancouver has been talking about building towers at the commercial Broadway station for nearly a decade, but to this day, it's still a safe way. Justin McElroy, CBC News, Vancouver.
Renters of BC, learn your rights. That's the message from a lawyer after what he calls a rise in bad faith evictions. In particular, landlords forcing tenants out under something known as the caretaker provision. Now, Kieran Singh explains.
It just feels greedy and abusive.
Mauricio Carvalho is fighting an eviction notice for his Vancouver bachelor suite. The issue goes back several months after Carvalho and his neighbors say they were each contacted by the building management company Plan A Real Estate Services and told
The unit is going to be converted for a caretaker.
They said that they wanted to move in a caregiver.
Both Goto and Carvalho say they were told that one of them would be evicted under the caretaker provision.
The odd thing is also that it was between our unit or the other unit. So they were kind of stressing us to make us feel guilty that if we said no, maybe our neighbor would be evicted instead of us.
Goto says she wanted to minimize any conflict and was given two options: sign a mutual agreement and leave at the end of June, or be evicted by April. She signed the mutual agreement.
But as soon as we signed the agreement, our unit was put into rental sites, clearly not renting it to a caregiver. It was out for market for regular renters.
Screenshots reviewed by CBC News show Goto's suite was being offered for $1,000 more per month than she was paying for 7 years. She went to BC's residential tenancy branch for help, but
I called RTB and they just told me that because I had signed a mutual agreement to end the tenancy, there's nothing I could dispute legally.
And the property manager argues he's done nothing wrong.
I did tell her we were considering moving in a caretaker, and there was a possibility that she could be given a notice. She chose voluntarily to sign a mutual agreement.
Majitia did follow provincial rules since Goto wasn't given an eviction notice. He also claims that Goto's apartment was listed because they couldn't find a caretaker in time, and it was his financial responsibility to the landlord, who is Majitia's wife, to rent the apartment. Majitia says Mauricio Carvalho is now being evicted as they have found a caretaker to move in. This tenants' right lawyer isn't involved in either disputes, but says in general he's seeing more cases of multiple tenants in the same building being warned a caretaker may move in.
There likely needs to be more certainty and more rules around it, because it is a trend I've actually started to see very recently.
BC's Housing Ministry says the residential tenancy branch is looking at ways to eliminate abuse of the ability to evict for landlords' use of the unit. It says changes will be announced in the coming months. Carvalho, meanwhile, has a hearing with the branch scheduled for November.
I cannot take the risk of just hoping that the BRT sides with me. And so if I have to look for somewhere else, it just feels that whatever happens, the company wins.
If the RTB upholds the eviction notice, Carvalho can be asked to leave his home within 48 hours. Kiran Singh, CBC News, Vancouver.
As the demand for housing surges, BC is trying to attract more people to the construction industry. A new program aims to entice and retain workers in the sector, especially underrepresented and diverse employees. The province projects 108,000 homes will be built or at least under construction by the end of 2028. The construction industry, by the way, makes up more than 7% of all job openings in BC. A petition to stop a proposed barge berth in Richmond has begun. Metro Vancouver says the barge would be used to ferry building materials to the Iona Island wastewater treatment plant and would curb truck traffic in the area. But people who live on nearby Deering Island fear it'll hurt wildlife habitats. An online petition to stop construction has gained almost 800 signatures. Metro Vancouver is expected to discuss it tomorrow. Well, the Vancouver Canucks kicked off their season at home tonight, and it was a blowout.
Here's Hughes with a shot towards the net, and Brock Besser has 4 tonight in the Canucks season opener.
That's Brock Besser with his fourth goal of the night. In the end, the Canucks walloped the Edmonton Oilers 8-1. Defenseman Quinn Hughes was also officially unveiled as team captain in a pregame ceremony. Their next game is Saturday against the Oilers once again, but this time in Edmonton. Well, late-night snack cravings can hit the best of us, and it appears that may have been the case for a black bear on Vancouver Island. This is Tipton's Gas Bar in Lake Cowichan. On Monday, this black bear wandered in looking for something to eat. It gently picked up a 70-cent bag of gummy bears and walked right back out again.
Yeah, the door was open. He just sauntered in and slowly walked around the store and sniffed a few things and found what he wanted and basically left.
I thought it was amazing. I thought it was so cool.
They say they stayed behind the counter until the bear was out of sight. And in other bear news tonight, 128 Grazer has been named the champion of the Katmai National Park's Fat Bear Week, garnering over 1 million votes. Her win brings her fame, but more importantly, the promise of success through the winter as the bears beef up for hibernation. The National Park Service says she has raised 2 litters of cubs and has a reputation for being fiercely protective and a skilled fisher as well. Well, still ahead, it's been almost 5 years since cannabis was legalized in Canada. We take a look back at how far the industry has come and why health officials are concerned. That's coming up next. And thanks for watching our commercial-free live stream. A BC filmmaker is setting out on a huge personal project to document the journey and challenges of thousands of healthcare workers during the pandemic. Our Saurabh Sandhu caught up with the young filmmaker.
Virus they'd hoped to contain, but one we now know can jump from human to human.
Amir Bautista has been working in healthcare for last 3 years. He says the first-hand experience has been an eye-opener.
It is really hard. It is really daunting.
An established filmmaker himself, Bautista is now documenting the challenge his fellow workers have been facing in the industry.
This documentary hopefully will make people understand that the healthcare system is not the one taking care of us, but today is the right time that we should take care of the healthcare system.
Titled Bayani, a Filipino word for heroic, he says the documentary sheds light specifically on the plight of Filipino healthcare workers who often work in dangerous conditions.
People call them heroes. I call them survivors.
The documentary is being produced in partnership with Filipino BC as a part of series gathering stories of and by Filipinos.
We wanted to highlight the stories that our community has known about, and these are stories that we know because our friends, our family have been working in the healthcare sector and have been affected directly by the pandemic.
Having finished his initial set of interviews with healthcare workers, Bautista is now looking to expand the scope of documentary.
So we will be heading with more important pieces of the research, key people, like the leaders, and of course our frontline workers, even the community.
The makers of the film say government needs to do more in gathering race-related data in healthcare settings to understand the disproportionate impact of the pandemic on Filipino and other racialized communities. Saurabh Sandhu, CBC News, Vancouver.
Welcome back. A new pilot program will support pregnant people and new parents suffering from substance abuse.
For pregnant people and new parents who have addiction challenges, finding mental health and housing supports, in particular, that meet their specific needs can be incredibly difficult. And we know that people in that situation are facing particular challenges. There's homelessness, there's trauma, violence, stigma, racism.
15 beds are now available at housing sites across the Lower Mainland and Victoria. Officials hope to better understand how to support parents and newborns once they're discharged from a hospital setting. This project will be run by BC Women's Hospital, which is partnered with 3 not-for-profits. Well, Vancouver Coastal Health has launched a new campaign to bring more awareness to mental health concerns among children and youth. It's called On Your Mind. It focuses on helping parents identify the early signs of mental health challenges and help them intervene quickly with supports. Well, just days before the 5-year anniversary of cannabis legalization in Canada, the results of that decision are coming in mixed. The CBC's Christine Birak breaks down the upside and also what has health officials worried.
5 years post-legalization, public health experts say more Canadians are using cannabis. Hospitalizations are up, and the drug is linked to some serious health concerns.
So this is one of the things we need to take seriously and try to change.
A commentary published in the Canadian Medical Association journal outlines cannabis use has increased to more than a quarter of Canadians. The number of pot-related pregnancy care cases has doubled, harming newborns. And while still rare, 3 times as many children were poisoned by edible cannabis products.
This is disconcerting. This is not what was ideally expected from legalization.
Studies show Alberta and Ontario have seen a 20% increase in cannabis-related ER visits, including more cases of cannabis-induced psychosis. Doctors say that's troubling.
If you have an emerge visit for cannabis-induced psychosis, in absolute terms, you have a 26% chance of developing schizophrenia within 3 years.
We still need to understand what are the biological mechanisms of why some people are more vulnerable than others.
She adds pot users under 16 are at higher risk of mental health problems. While legalization was supposed to cut youth usage, surveys show 30 to 50% are still using cannabis, one of the highest rates in the world.
The first time I smoked cannabis to deal with my stress, I failed 2 courses in a year. And then was homeless at the end of that semester.
Lucas Wade became addicted and tried to take his own life. He says governments need better pot policies.
You have an ethical responsibility to make treatment for that substance just as accessible as it is getting the substance itself.
While the health impacts of legal pot have largely been negative, experts say fewer arrests and criminal charges related to cannabis use can be seen as social justice wins that may indirectly improve public health. But doctors insist, going forward, governments need to refine the rules, start treating cannabis more like tobacco. Christine Birak, CBC News, Toronto.
Here's a live shot of Harbour Centre downtown. Well, the sun is set to return for a few days at least. We'll be back with your 5-day forecast coming up next. Stay with us.
Back when the Tin Woodman accompanied Dorothy down the yellow brick road to Oz, most of the things that you'll find at the Discovery Fair in Vancouver were little more than fantasy. Now they're reality, and they may, to use the modern expression, blow your mind. Laser technology, solar energy, space and underwater research, satellite communications, and a myriad other things to see and do. The Discovery Fair is a chance to mingle with the future. You can try out computers, ride on air-cushioned vehicles, learn a little something about your favorite branch of science. This year, the focus of the fair is communications and automation, and it's brought exhibitors from the province's universities and colleges, as well as the commercial producers of exciting new products. They tell me they even have computers here that will talk.
Hello.
Well, hello there, whatever you are.
This is an exhibit by the Mechanical Engineering Department of UBC.
My goodness, I wonder if I can make it say something. Let's see.
Bill Dobson, CBC News, Vancouver.
Dozens of volunteers worked through the long, wet night to find bodies and survivors, but it took the harsh reality of daylight to drive home the horror on M Creek Bridge. The huge wooden bridge looked like a child's toy that fell down. The massive foot-square beams of the span were either smashed into kindling or swept a mile out into Howe Sound. Rescuers worked through deep mud, probing with metal shafts to find human remains or more missing cars. The house, which had been swept out to sea, was towed to the shore by a Coast Guard hovercraft. The man who lived there is missing and presumed dead, but his small dog somehow survived. The drivers who plunged off M Creek Bridge had no warning. The Department of Highways patrols the road during the winter, looking for snowslides and ice, but those patrols haven't begun yet. But M Creek Bridge vanished so quickly that it's doubtful even a patrol would have prevented the disaster. Highways engineers say it appears the heavy rains earlier in the evening caused heavy runoff through a recently logged-off area upstream of the bridge. Many large logs slid into the stream and washed towards the trestle. The logs and huge boulders piled against the bridge until the pressure of the onrushing creek simply ripped the span from its footings. It's known that at least 3 cars drove off the bridge. In this van alone, there was a family of 5. Only one survived, 16-year-old Paula Ross. Her mother and father, Molly and Ross George of Squamish, sister Charlene, and 4-year-old Ross Perry all died in the mangled, mud-filled wreckage.
Hi, I'm Amy Bell, and here's what's in your CBC Vancouver inbox. The Chutzpah Festival returns November 2nd to 23rd with an exciting lineup of performances, including dance, music, theater, and more. For tickets, visit chutzpahfestival.com. And join CBC Vancouver's Leanne Young at the Alumni UBC Achievement Awards November 14th. The event honors members of the UBC community through their endeavors and commitment to help shape a better world.
The weather update is brought to you by Direct Buy Furnace. To cool and clean the air in your home, call Direct Buy Furnace. Installing Trane, the most reliable heating and cooling brand.
Let's bring in our Darius Madavi for a look at the forecast. And Darius, it was like night and day yesterday with the rain and the beautiful sunshine here this morning.
Oh, so much blue sky today. I got to take a nice walk. It was really great. We dried up across the province heading into this afternoon. So that's what we're looking at here, just the afternoon time. A little bit of rain still making its way into the northeast and a little bit popping up in the south, just some scattered showers, but really not much at all. That's going to be the same story over the next 24 hours. And then heading into Friday night, that's when we start to see some rain make its way to the south coast. So for Thursday, really nothing except for the sort of BC-Alberta border and a little bit up north. But it's Friday night that we start to see some showers move in. And if we want to take a look at this weekend, a lot of this is subject to change, but you see some of those showers streaming into the northwest Thursday into Friday morning. And then that rain makes its way to the west coast of the island by Friday night. Probably not making its way here to the lower mainland until late Friday night, overnight into Saturday morning, and then we start to see some scattered showers pop up throughout the weekend. Probably not going to be too much significant rainfall. If we get some heavy rain, that's probably coming Sunday. Saturday, we're probably just looking at some showers popping up throughout the lower mainland, but still a risk of some heavier rainfall on Sunday. We'll update that tomorrow because we'll have a better idea of exactly how much rain will come. Over the next few days, we see temperatures come up by Friday, and then we see them tomorrow and Friday, and then we see them come down again as that rain moves in to the south coast on Saturday, and then temperatures stay around here, which is around seasonal over the next few days. So for tomorrow, I'd say just enjoy the sunshine across the south because it'll be relatively short-lived as we keep flip-flopping back between this rain and this sunshine. And then up north, we've got still a little bit of cloud, but not much else to speak of. Small chance of showers popping up some places tomorrow in the south, but really not much to speak of, except for a little bit of cloud here in Vancouver. And then temperatures, once again, a little bit warmer inland before that rain really starts to move in next weekend and sticks around for quite a while.
We'll enjoy those warmer temperatures while we have them. Thanks so much, Darius.
Thanks, Tanya.
And that is your late news for this Wednesday, October 11th. For news anytime, anywhere, you can download the free CBC News app. You can always find us online as well at cbc.ca/BC. Thank you for watching. Have a great night.